Hi everyone, welcome to Market Insight for the week of November 20th through the 24th. Starting with our monthly chart and our top-down approach, the monthly continues to show bullish characteristics. And this is as we're entering a seasonal bullish seasonal pattern as we come into the end of the year, and also as we begin a presidential election cycle. So both of these are seasonal patterns tend to have fairly strong bullish inclinations. Now, it doesn't mean that the market will definitely maintain a bullish thrust. You know, nothing's fixed in stone, and we still want to be alert to any contradiction to these patterns. That being said, we also don't want to just ignore the relatively well-established seasonal patterns. And thus far, I see nothing that's contradictory or that would indicate the bullish market tone that we're seeing is fading or is about to end. When we consider the forces of the buying and selling, we have to conclude that buyers are in control. On the monthly chart, we continue to see the advance upwards, breaking and holding above the October monthly high. Let's turn to the weekly. We'll go into a little bit more depth here. So on the weekly, we see the markets responding positively off of the lows. And that confluence of support that we saw down there, right? Around the 4,200 level. Yeah, it went down to 4122, but this confluence was all in this area. We've discussed that for several weeks in the past. And in that positive response, we're seeing the weekly resistance broken. We see the August 22 high here broken, right? The next resistance here around 4350 broken. The immediate diagonal trend line here, the short one here, also broken. The minor resistance just above 4,400, I don't know exactly what those numbers are, but just around there, that gets broken. And then the larger diagonal supply line here. Both of the supply lines get broken, but this one's broken as well. So all this resistance being broken reflects momentum in this uploop. Now we also want to consider the wave structure here on the weekly on the weekly time frame. Remember, Wyckoff gave us guidance in using the wave structure. He said more or less that when the up waves become greater, and we can measure that in a variety of ways, time, distance, and volume, or when the down waves become smaller, or when the down waves become smaller, then we can when we're seeing or expecting a change in trend. And we're seeing the most current wave off of the lows as larger than both the up waves in the recent down move and also the down waves. From the July highs. Yeah, the July highs created this down move, and the down waves were larger. They were in control. Selling was in control. And now we see the change of behavior with this up wave being both larger than the down waves that we've seen in terms of duration and size, and also in terms of the up waves as well. So again, not seeing anything on the weekly to contradict or to disconfirm, right? Disconfirm the bullishness of the market. So let's look at the daily and see even more details of this. Again, nothing negative on the daily. In fact, you should be able to see, or I would encourage you to see the bullish character on the daily time frame. We break the same resistance levels that we talked about on the weekly. You can see the details of the daily breaking the horizontal support levels in here, right? And all the way up, and also breaking the two diagonal supply lines, the trend line, the trend channels here. These are really the weekly, what we just saw on the weekly, just highlighted in more detail on the daily. And also we can look at the daily wave structure as well. The up waves clearly are larger than the down waves. And we can also look more deeply into this for even greater insight. One thing to notice is that the first up wave here, the first larger up wave, I should say, made strong progress on 5 or 6 days up, a week or just a little bit more than a week. Compare that to the last down wave. Even though the last down wave was a little bit larger in terms of points, it took around twice the amount of time, about 12 days or so, to complete. So this rapid rise up reflects the eagerness or urgency, if you will, on the part of the buyers. And that urgency is also reflected in the V-spike reversal here. Right? We come down into this confluence of support and buyers get urgent or eager to buy, and bang, they push the price up. Then we get shallow pullback, excuse me, at resistance at the prior congestion area, which is serving as resistance. That formed in mid-October here. And then we continue up in another bullish wave up. So note also the quality of the price action within the waves. Let me point this out to you. The up waves have price bars on wide spreads, closing on the high, closing firm to the upside, wide spreads, right? The down waves are much smaller in range or spread and are not closing firm to the downside, right? This is all bullish, and same thing here. This is all bullish. Now we can also assess the volume, overall volume level in the waves. And we can do this off the standard volume histogram. We can box it out by the waves. We can box the volume out by the waves. And we can see that the upside volume is increasing as the downside wave volume is decreasing. Now we can also see this maybe a little bit better perhaps, or maybe easier, if we put the Weiss wave on the daily chart. Usually don't use this, but here I am using it. And this is a 10-point reversal. I could also use a 15-point reversal. I'll show you basically the same thing. And that would be kind of an intermediate level reversal. We often use a 10 or a 15-point box size in a point and figure chart. So that's where this comes from. And so you can see the change of behavior in the larger up wave, right? And the low, you can certainly see the up wave volume, right? The larger up wave volume here, and then the low volume on the pullback. Also checking the major indices, we see everyone's bullish with the NAS leading the way, a little stronger, and the Dow a little bit weaker than the slight laggard here. Now we're coming up into important resistance, potentially important resistance. So we want to be alert for signs that we may go into consolidation ahead, but we still have a little higher to go before that we encounter that on the S&Ps and on the Dow. So a little premature probably to talk about that. So let's see what's likely on tap for next week, going back to the daily chart. So after 5 days, after last, let's say it this way, after last week's shakeout, we had a shakeout, last week, we had the week before this past week, we had the Thursday was a down day, we had pretty good volume come in, but that heavy volume and price stopping at right there at support, we talked about the potential for shakeout, and that indeed happened the next day. Picture perfect shakeout. Remember David advising us that when we see a threatening bar and it gets taken out in the next bar or two, that's pretty bullish, right? That's a hallmark characteristic of bullish behavior in the market. So the week before this ended on a very positive note. And then Monday, well, let's just erase so we get clear sense here. Monday, what do we see? Lovely test. A very nice test that occurred on Monday. Now, signifying no supply, right? Look at the low volume there. Now, this was not only meaningful in the immediate sense, kind of testing that shakeout, but also looking to the over to the left. It's useful to see in comparison to the down bars at the highs around mid-October and the volume that they had compared to this, right? And so on two fronts, the supply to the left and the supply from the shakeout, there's just no supply here in the market, where earlier we saw that supply. And so buyers, seeing this nice test, respond positively on Tuesday with a good strong trend day to the upside, breaking that important supply line that week. This is really the weekly supply line resistance, breaking that as well. Again, bullish. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we have narrow range bars indicating that the buyers are, at least so far, attempting to hold the gains made over the prior couple of weeks. So again, all this is bullish and nothing is negative. Nothing negative is seen so far. Now, put a demand line here on the daily chart, and this may or may not contain price this coming week. Why do I say that? Well, first off, it's steeper than a 45-degree angle, and we generally consider the more 45-degree angle a kind of a sound trend. This is a pretty active trend, let's put it that way, pretty aggressive trend. So this may contain the price action, or we may see a reaction a little bit lower and we actually break this demand line without adversely affecting the bullish trend. If we break it and we don't see real supply come in and the market starts to head back up again, we just are going to adjust the demand line. That's all. And as you know, the demand lines are frequently adjusted. They're not like a horizontal support or resistance line that once drawn stays stable. Demand lines and supply lines, until they get firmly established with a couple of touch points, they are subject to change, vulnerable to change. So what's on? So dip down into this level around the 44.90 to 95 level. Be a little below Thursday's low, kind of testing the round number 4,500. So if that level holds, it would reflect that this price action that we're seeing in here is likely absorption of the supply seen over to the left, which came in, when did that come in? September, I guess that was September and October. September and August. So that would be one, that would be the most bullish scenario if it holds around 45.95, 45.90 in that area, probably would contain the demand line would still be intact here as I've drawn it. Now, that being said, we can certainly anticipate also a deeper pullback to occur, maybe around 44.60 area, 44.65, somewhere around there, give or take, right? This would be a normal pullback still. Halfway point would be, just eyeballing this, I haven't put it on, but probably around here somewhere. But this would be certainly a normal pullback, testing last Tuesday's vertical acceleration, right? There's a vertical acceleration bar with pretty good volume, and it wouldn't be a surprise to come back in and test that. It would also be a nice test of the weekly supply line here, coming in and testing in that area, holding it and then rallying. So assuming one of these scenarios holds out, either we test around 44.90 to 95, or we go a little deeper to around 44.60. If that holds and we start back up again, then the target would be the July high up here at about 44.60, 46.35 area. It's actually 44.64 and a half. Now that assumes we overcome this most nearby resistance here at 45.66, which appears likely given the current price action on the daily chart. But getting up to 44.36, 44.35 rather, excuse me, 46.35. That may take more than a week to get to, depending on what we do, how all of this, we've seen absorption that can continue for days and days, if not weeks at a time. So depending on how the market handles the current reaction, we'll see if this gets taken out, and then we start pushing up towards 46.35. But that would be the overall expectation given this current impression, this bullish impression of the market. So let's see what we've got on tap for this week. We have a membership meeting on Monday, November 20th, right after the close at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be talking about David's book, the 10th chapter, which is the tape reading part 2. Now he's getting more into the Weiss wave. So we'll talk about that. It's a nice overview of the Weiss wave. Now, deep practice this week. We are in a holiday mode here. Thanksgiving is on Thursday, the 23rd. So have a great Thanksgiving, folks, and no deep practice this week. We'll pick up again on November 30th, the following Thursday. So everyone have a great weekend, the rest of the weekend. Have good trading next week. As we go into the holiday, generally bullish, right? So watch for that. Of course, if it's not bullish, then something different is happening, and we want to be alert to that too. And have a really good holiday if you're celebrating Thanksgiving here in the U.S. or abroad. Everybody, see you Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.